Welcome back to Left, Right and Centre. Our other big story tonight, the Supreme Court will on Friday hear the Army Chief's case against the government. But sources in the Ministry of Defence tell NDTV that the government has ruled out any sort of compromise with General VK Singh. Sources say the government has been advised by the Defence Minister, Mr. AK Antony and others, that its legal case is strong. Our Strategic Affairs editor, Nitin Gokhale, has more.
Well, although the impression had gained ground last Friday that the Supreme Court had made adverse remarks against the decision-making process of the Defence Ministry in the Army Chief age row. The government itself and the Defence Ministry and the top law officials, including the Attorney General and the Solicitor General, are of the view that the legal case of the government is still strong. The government is not going to compromise, it's not going to back down, it is going to fight till the end in the Supreme Court. They have had a series of meetings between the Defence Ministry officials and the law officials, and also top officials of the Defence Ministry have briefed the Prime Minister twice. The Minister himself, the Defence Minister AK Antony himself is very clear now that he will see the court case being fought in the Supreme Court and not back down from his decision to reject the Army Chief's statutory complaint that he had rejected last December. There is, of course, this view that the Supreme Court will quash the statutory complaint which was rejected by the Defence Ministry and then start hearing the case. And the government is very clear that they have enough documentary evidence suggesting or supporting its contention that the Army Chief's age or Army Chief's year of birth must be maintained as 1950 and not 1951. And therefore, they are going to fight the case till the end in the Supreme Court, come what may. That is what we are hearing.
Nitin Gokhale there with the latest on that story. The government then ruling out any kind of a compromise. We're asking tonight, is the age row now hurting both the government and the army, as both sides seem to be increasingly hardening their stand? Well, joining me on this discussion, Major General G.D. Bakshi. I also have with me Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad. Also joining us tonight, KTS Tulsi, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, and Shoma Chaudhary, the Managing Editor of the Helka magazine. General Bakshi, if I can begin with you, no matter how the Supreme Court rules on this dispute in the end between the government and the Army Chief, do you see this as being extremely detrimental for both sides?
Of course it is detrimental. It has been detrimental to the synergy that has to exist between the various components of the national security architecture. And therefore our view has been all along that it should not have been allowed to come to this sorry pass. It should have been settled long back in a much more discreet and a confidential manner and handled with far greater sensitivity. But the point is, it has reached thus far. And from here, I don't see any scope for a compromise. You see, when you are talking of a matter of fact, is the age of birth of the chief 1950 or 51? There cannot be a compromise that it should be taken as a mean, a mathematical mean. There is no such compromise which is feasible. What was being bandied about was a kind of a solution which I only saw in the media. I'm not sure how, with what degree of seriousness it was being pursued, which we saw in the media that, okay, for the purposes of restoring the honor of the chief, the age is accepted as 51, but he is still asked to, demit office on the 31st of May this year, which again is a logical absurdity. If his age is this, then by extension his tenure is still next year.
So logical absurdity, General Shankar Prasad, or is it something that really the government didn't have a choice on about compromising?
See, first of all, let me reflect on your question that you started with. I don't see there has been a sadder moment for defence services than what it is today. We've had many cases in the past, that of General Thimaya being quoted and some others, but this is perhaps the saddest because those days the media was not so active as it is today. Today, for the last 10 months or so, every single citizen in this country, whether he belongs to the armed forces or not, is talking about this matter. And this is a matter which I'd hate to hear about an army chief. If it was to be talked about a major or a lieutenant colonel, it doesn't matter. But to have the army chief into discussion with youngsters with middle-aged people, with retired and senior people, is a very hurtful story.
But it's given the fact that the army chief has taken the stand that he has, and the government has also chosen not to back down on this, it's clearly been something that has been occupying the headlines.
Therefore, the issue is that both sides are very sure of the facts. The petitioner is also very sure of what he is fighting in the Supreme Court. Unless he was quite sure that he can convince the Supreme Court, he wouldn't have gone to the Supreme Court. So is the government. And the government is also pretty sure that they'll be able to defend their decision. So it is very hard to say which way the case will go. And to say anything at this point in time is unfair because the matter is before a Supreme Court. And whoever produces better and stronger evidence, and that left to the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court, well, that's the final verdict, I guess. But I really wish that this matter would end as soon as possible, whether it is a compromise or understanding or whatever you may call it. I hate to have it being brought out on TV channels every day. And you'll see how the nation will go berserk again on the 10th of February, when this some kind of process will take place in the Supreme Court.
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone, fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.